The Phoenix Suns fired their head coach Mike Budenholzer today. Earlier today, they fired him. He was actually hired last summer for a 5-year, $50 million deal, which means they owe him $40 million. So the real winner today was actually Mike Budenholzer. He's going to get paid $40 million the next few years to do absolutely nothing. That's what I call winning, to be honest. And I would say the biggest losers today were the Phoenix Suns because they're a team that's in disarray. They have no vision, they have no future. Kevin Durant will be traded sometime during the offseason. So they don't have no legit franchise player. Not to say that Kevin Durant is still a legit franchise player, but that shows you how dire the situation is. And I think Bradley Beal is still on the hook for like 2 years, $110 million, which is a gross overpay now with what Bradley Beal has given them the last year or two. Hasn't really been worth it for them. So they're the biggest losers today. I think firing Mike Budenholzer was just their owner Matt Ishbia masking the overall problem of this team, which is that there's just no vision, no foundation or structure on how to win. They don't have any of that. They don't have a properly constructed roster. I don't even think the great Phil Jackson or Greg Popovich would have been able to have much success with his team, because I look at this roster and I've seen some Suns games this year, and the biggest issue with the Suns I felt was not only did they have injuries to Bradley Beal this year and Kevin Durant, but also their team is not built to be a good team defensively. That they're a terrible defensive team, and if you look at their defensive rating this year, they were ranked 22nd in the league in defense. That's pretty bad. That's pretty damn bad. That's not even a playoff caliber team then. And obviously that's why they're not in the playoffs. One of the biggest reasons. How much of this is really Mike Budenholzer's fault? I can't really say it's that much of his fault, because the team was never built to be a winning team. There was arrogance from Ishbia that he thought that if he had Booker, Durant, and Beal, that these guys were like three superstars. That's what he believed, and that he could surround them with just a bunch of garbage on the roster, and it would be good enough for them to win a ton of games and to be a title contender. And when in reality, that just wasn't the case. They were not good enough to carry a bunch of trash with them. And now they're in this terrible situation. But what I really think that needs to happen now is that their owner, Ishbia, has to admit that he made a mistake when he made the move to get Bradley Beal. And I think he did trade for Kevin Durant a few years back once he became the owner of the team. But it's time for him to course correct and have a fire sale. He should trade all three of these guys. I know the Suns don't have any draft picks, I think, in the next several years due to all the picks they've given up in these trades to get Durant and Beal. But the good news is by trading these guys, they can get some draft picks. There's going to be a lot of desperate teams this summer, and they'll be willing to give up quite a few picks to get these players, that they will think that these guys can be the missing piece to becoming a championship team, or get them over that hump if they are a contender, that they'll believe that they can help them in some way. So they have a lot of assets that they can deal to get some future assets. I feel that they should get rid of Kevin Durant, which they're going to do. That's a given. So that's going to be a good move. But then you get rid of Bradley Beal also. I think they should trade Bradley Beal. There'll be some desperate team. They'll be willing to give you a few good picks, some solid role players, maybe a good player for him. And I know this is controversial. I'm going to say trade Devin Booker also. Booker is a good player in my eyes, but he's not a franchise player. He's not a guy that can carry a team. He's not Luka Doncic. I would say he's not even Anthony Edwards. He's not at that level. He's not even a Ja Morant type that he can be a franchise player and get you to the playoffs. I don't see that with him. Granted, they did have some playoff success with him a few years ago, but that was because they had a stacked team. They were assembled properly, and it worked out. But I don't think he's that guy. I think he can be the second or third best player on a championship team. I think he would be great just as a second guy, but as a number one guy, I don't see it. And they're not going to get a number one guy anytime soon, the way things are with them. So they should trade him, and they can get a lot for him. I think there'll be a desperate team willing to give up a few good players and some draft picks to get Booker. So you can get a lot in return if you trade all three of those guys. And that's what they should aim for, because they're not going to win a championship with any of those three guys or be a legit title contender with any of these three guys going forward. They might as well just gut this team out, go through the painful rebuild the next 4 or 5 years, get some draft capital, and once they no longer owe picks, well, then they're going to look pretty good, I think, in the next 5-6 years. But that's what they should do. Excuse me. That should be the goal. And they would do that if they're smart, but I don't think they will. But we'll see. That's all I have to say.